In the name of the Mother, the Father, and the Morning Star, welcome to my channel. I'm your viewer, Yam, and today I'm joined by Muertero Yamil, and we'll be discussing the Anima Sola. Thank you for joining me today, Yamil. Uh,
Thank you for having me.
it's my pleasure. This is actually our second attempt at this. Our first attempt got the spirits and the wires seemed to wanted to have some fun with us. But we were starting off. We were discussing a bit about your background. As I was saying, I come to Anima Sola from a more, I guess, a Catholic background, as her being a representation of the holy souls in purgatory. But I understand you come to it from a background of a spiritismo, where she's much more than that in a way. So.
Yes, so pretty much like what I was telling you was is that I myself am baptized in the Catholic Church as well.
Mhm,
But when we approach the animas or the anima sola or any anima that we're working with that is like a guide, right? It's like a
mhm,
spirit guide. We come to it as spirits that we're helping them, but they're also helping us as well to basically maintain ourselves as spiritual people on the path of ascending, right?
mhm,
So with the Anima Sola herself of Maria Celestina, I I work with her as a spirit guide, as a guía espiritual. To me, she is one of my main guides. She is one of those spirits that I work with a lot. I work with other animas as well, but I was introduced to her through Espiritismo, through the misas that we would have, and the mediums there would mount different animas. One of them in the Cuban folklore, it's very popular. Her name is Antonia Gervasio. And when that spirit will get possessed, that spirit will come down very aggressive. Sometimes will light herself on fire. Sometimes would give, what we call videncias or evidence, right? To
mhm.
basically let you know, hey, this is what's going on in your life. So the way that was the first anima that I was introduced to in Espiritismo, and then that from there that just skyrocketed to everything else. My uncle as well, Juango, who was a practitioner of the Afro-Cuban traditions as well, was his main guide. One of his main guides was Antonio Gervasio as well, so he had an altar to the animas as well. And I learned how to work with the animas through through him, through my teacher in the cordon and in the espiritismo cruzado as well. And that was my main teacher in the animas because we would have spiritual reunions or spiritist reunions dedicated to the animas.
That's fascinating. So what would you say is the main difference in the conception of the anima sola as you would find them in Catholicism as how you find them in Spiritismo?
I think that because if we're going to talk about espiritismo cruzado or espiritismo de cordón or mesa blanca or any type of expression of it, of Latin American spiritism, we always work them as folk saints, like a folk saint. Okay,
Mhm,
so in the Catholic aspect, mainly from what I've seen, Catholics usually pray to the spirits of purgatory, trying to get them out of purgatory through either, I think it's through the Virgin Mary, or they try to do it through other saints as well, even
mhm.
Archangel Michael as well.
Yeah.
And with Spiritism, or the Spiritism that I was taught, it's kind of the same thing, but our concept of seeing them as them being in a purgatory, it's a little bit different. The concept changes a bit there because to us, these are spirits just like any other spirits that we need to do charity with. Understand me?
Mhm,
The way that we go about doing it is that we do things like novenas, where you do have the novenas in the Catholic Church, but
mhm,
we also have our novenas, but are done a little bit different. We also do charity or obra de caridad, which is when mediums get possessed with the spirits of the animas and we help them elevate. Whether they're possessing somebody because it's a spirit that's been walking with this person for a long time, It's probably an anima that manifested through the person through a sickness or was sent to the person as a curse.
Mhm.
We elevate those animas, we bring them out, we talk to them, we have a conversation with them, we dismiss them. We don't banish them, we dismiss them in a respectful manner. Um, we also give them offerings, liquor, water, which I was taught the most important offerings that you could give the animas within a spiritual spiritismo context is light, water, and prayer. Those are the most important ones. You could give them other things, but those are the three main ones they that every altar or every worker of the animas or animero should be working, should be giving the animas or the anima sola.
And that's certainly where my own practice with them derives from as well. You know, you offer them light and water, and then a rosary, or you know,
Hmm.
the chaplet of the dead, or some other you
Hmm.
know, indulgence prayers like the chaplet of divine mercy. Even.
Hmm. Yeah, and like I said, there's not that much difference with the Catholic religion because we do have influences of the Catholic religion. Cuban style spiritism, whether it's cordón espiritual, whether it's espiritismo cruzado, especially espiritismo cruzado, you have a lot of Catholic influence in those practices where you will see tables with images of saints, you know. But one thing that a lot of people don't explain is that, for example, I have an image behind me of the Anima Sola, right?
Mhm.
And I have an image of Juan el Minero, right? And I have different animas that walk with me. The thing about the Anima Sola is that she is a representation of all of those spirits in purgatory, or those spirits that are in a limbo state, or those spirits that are stuck in a state where they need to be elevated and they need to ascend to the spiritual school.
Mhm.
So where they're taught how to evolve. That's um a spiritist way of saying, you know, that they ascend to us. They It's in a lot of the prayers that we say. You will hear that the spirits are going to a school, you know, and they're going to be taught by the higher elevated spirits. The spiritist doctrine, the orthodox one, is not the same. They don't see this. They don't see these spirits as spirits of purgatory, but of a certain type of intelligence,
Mhm.
which we too adopt that because true spiritists, especially in cordon, which cordon is, it's like a more mix of, they follow the codification of Allan Kardec,
Mhm.
and then they have the mixture of the folk traditions, which falls more also into the indigenous practices. You see a lot of indigenous Taino practices within cordon. And then with the Espiritismo Cruzado, you see a lot of the African, you see a lot of the African too in Cordon as well, but you see a lot of the African in the Cruzado and things like that. So when we start working with the animas, we're working with the anima as folk spirits, folk saints.
Mhm.
Um, and we that's where you kind of see us deviate from the codification of Allan Kardec
Mhm.
because it works for us and it's a part of our folklore.
Incredible. I mean, I've really enjoyed my workings with Anima Sola. I haven't really done any magical workings with them per se. It's been more mystical and oriented towards elevating them. But you know,
Hmm.
just doing that, like it's you know, taking the time and offering them light and the prayers and the waters to help refresh them and elevate them. It just
Yes.
really brings like a sense of peace into your life that's like really hard to replicate through other
Mm.
things.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about working with the anima. Like for example, me, I work with different animals, like I said before. But the main anima that I work with is Maria Celestina. That is the main one that I work with. Um, to me, I do elevate the spirits of the animas. I do that on Saturdays.
Mhm.
And when I work with my personal guides or the animas that I work with on a day-to-day basis, I work them on Mondays. So I do both aspects of the anima work. I try to elevate them as much as I can,
Mhm.
There's times where I'll hold spiritual reunions here, and we'll bring those spirits down. Those spirits will come. Some they'll come very aggressive. Sometimes they'll come sobbing. Sometimes they'll come happy. Sometimes they won't. And we work with them and we elevate them and we offer them prayers and we let them know, hey, listen, you have to ascend. This is what it is, you know. So the work of an animero is it's basically helping spirits elevate as well, and you're elevating yourself at the same time. So there's a misconception about the animas out there, which is okay. There's a folklore to it. Usually they'll go to the spirit, the image of the Anima Sola. They'll get a prayer to do love work or to tie or bind somebody with because she's
I mean, that's
really
what they're known for. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. She's very effective with that. But there's also the other work that the animeros do that are devoted to the anima. I'm a devotee of the anima. I'm very, very, very devoted to her. I love her. I sit with her. I pray to her for hours at times. I spend a lot of time with her. And every experience that I've had with an anima, whether it's Maria Celestina, whether it's Antonia Gervasio, whether it's Juan Minero, whether it's different animas, even when I've traveled, I've gone to different places in Latin America and I've met different animas and even personal animas from a family, you know,
Mhm.
because there's those two as well. Um, I've those encounters that I've had have been life changing, very beautiful encounters. And I think the anima work is and it's very good because it aligns us. It helps us with those things that we're having issues with, that we want clarity with, and they will come. Or even a guide like Maria Celestina will come and she will guide you. She'll help you. She'll help elevate you. She'll give you the advice that you need to know, and she will also protect you. She is a very strong protector. There is times where even me myself, I've walked to the store
Mhm.
and I'll walk into the shop, into the supermarket, and I'll see somebody like like an old man will come and say, "Oh, you have a beautiful woman on your side," like complimenting, and I'm like, "What?"
Mhm.
But it's because Maria Celestina is right there. She's walking with me. She's protecting me, and that's very common with animeros, with people who work with the animas. It's very common, and then you also have the anima work that is done in the cemetery as well, where animeros coincide a lot with muerterismo as well, where
Mhm.
they're walking, there's times where I'll do a charity, and I'll clean a tomb, and
Mhm.
I'll clean the tomb because I see that the tomb has been a forgotten tomb, and that's also another state of animas as well, when there's tombs of spirits that have been forgotten,
Mhm.
and nobody has tended to those tombs anymore. So an animero's job is to like go there, clean the tomb up, give some flowers, offer them prayers, and let them know, hey, listen, I'm here for you.
Indeed, yeah, that's a lot of the prayers that you find in Latin America. They mention, that no one loves you, but I love you, and no one remembers you, but I remember you, and that
Exactly.
no one seeks you out. And I mean, that's like I guess some of my most first frightening experiences were with those like I guess forgotten dead, where their tombs are just really raggedy. No one's obviously paid attention to them for a really long time.
Hmm.
And but at the same time, once I overcame my fright, it like it's almost feral spirit. Like I've come to a really good relationship with them just from cleaning up them and doing the basic, the water, candle, and prayers. And
So one of the things that um, are very big with the animas is that a lot of the animas are spirits also that can inhabit certain places as well. Okay, so a lot of the times in I don't want to say I guess I like Western way of thinking, right?
Mhm.
When you encounter certain places like places that are haunted or things like that, to us we look at those are animas, you know,
Yeah.
and to us you have to be a developed medium to know what is it that these spirits want, you know? And the medium develops through each experience that he or she goes through. I've had cases where I've read people and they've said to me, "Hey, listen, I just bought this house. There's a spirit inside of it or spirits inside of it, and I want them to go." Okay, no problem. We have to understand in the Latin American context, a lot of these animas that we work with have gone through some traumatic deaths. A lot of them have. A lot of them in Latin America have been spirits that there was a form of necromancy involved with working with them.
Mm.
A majority of a lot of these animas, like for example, Antonia Gervasio, which being one of those famous ones in Cuba, that basically they use the image of the Anima Sola to syncretize her with.
Mm.
There's tales of her that the two tales that I've heard of her and I've researched as well was is that she was a spirit that when in life there's a tale that talks about her committing incest. So by her committing that incest, she was butchered to death with machetes. And then there was the other one, the other tale that speaks about her finding out about her losing of her partner cheating on her. So as a way of feeling that pain and agony, whoop, she set herself on fire. And a lot of those spirits go through these harsh deaths, you know, but they become these folk saints, like folk saints in Latin America, and they're like redeeming themselves. But they all have a different energy, though. Some of them are very passive, very nice. Some of them are not. Some of them are very aggressive. Some of them will come. Some of them are here to help, and some of them are here to handle business. And I have animas that work both ways, you know.
Mm.
Um, but we have to understand that in the Latin American context, a lot of these animas were basically people making pacts with these spirits that they once knew in life,
Mm.
and that particular spirit died in a particular place, and the person who knew them came, said, "Hey, listen, I want you to do this for me, and if you do this for me, I'll do this for you." And that's a very important thing when working with animas. There's a give and take relationship that's going on there. And the most important thing that people have to understand is that you have to keep your promises with them, especially with Maria Celestina. Because I honestly believe in my heart that Maria Celestina is a very popular spirit, and people really don't understand that when you work with her, it's like if you don't know what you're doing, you could get yourself hurt.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, necromancy and dealing with the spirits of the dead, especially when you don't know what you're doing, can have some rather grave consequences, so to speak. So,
Exactly.
like, you can get spirits that latch on to you or cause obsessions or to make you
Hmm.
depressed all the time. So they feed
And
off of that or your anger or whatever it might be, your
and
substance abuse.
exactly, and that's the thing. There's an anima for everything. There's so many of them, you know, and I think that when I started working with the animas through the espiritismo concept, espiritismo gave me an understanding because I had my mentor who taught me espiritismo cruzado and espiritismo de cordón, right? But I had
Mhm.
my grandmother teaching me spiritism from the Allan Kardec perspective, and that helped me a lot because I looked at the spirits from the cordon aspect and from the cruzado aspect, and I started understanding them through their psychology and the intelligence, which is what spiritism from Allan Kardec focuses on.
Mhm.
So when I started seeing them through their intelligence, and then I started really working with them, and it became easier for me to dabble with them. because I understand where they were coming from. Other people will be like, "Oh, but why is the spirit coming to me like this strong and this aggressive?" Hold on a second. I read this already. I know where this is from. There was scientific spiritual research done about this. So I have a mixture of both schools and both philosophies. So that made it very easy for me to work with the anima.
Well, it makes sense. You know, it's a very it helps balance the work. I guess I was what I was hoping to say.
Hmm.
So because you can approach it, or you understand where they're coming from, so you understand better what they want, and then they're more likely to respond to you because you're coming from that place of understanding and empathy.
Exactly. When somebody wants to approach or wants to work with the animas through the spiritist concept, or the or you know, cordón espiritual, or espiritismo mesa blanca, or espiritismo cruzado, or even just working Catholic folk traditions, you know. um I think that the most important thing that people should have done is a spiritual investigation. A spiritual investigation is a proper introduction for people to really get their feet wet when it comes to working with these types of spirits. Then from there, um, you could do like a simple setup. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was asking me like, "Oh, you know, what is like a simple way of doing working with the anima?" And I said, "You know, the animas are not very hard, but but specific ones are very choosy. You know, Maria Celestina, in my opinion, is a very choosy spirit. She just doesn't work with anybody. If you don't know what you're doing, you might not be working with her. You're working with something else." And that takes a lot of devotion to develop a relationship with that spirit. So what I tell people is, when you start working with the Anima Sola, right, which is the
Hmm.
spirit of Maria Celestina, um, I think that you have to set aside all expectations of wanting to get something from her, and just wanting to be a devotee, and wanting to do that charity of wanting to help these spirits ascend, and also you ascend at the same time. So you, like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, do you need to put a statue? Do you need to put an altar up? Do you need to do?" You really don't have to. You just, by putting a glass of water, a white Sabbath candle or a tea light candle, and praying your prayers, is more than enough for you to get the job done. It's showing her devotion. She's looking at you. She's taking you into consideration, and she's getting closer and closer. I know that I remember in a past interview I told you that when I started working with her,
Hmm.
I put all those expectations to the side, and my teacher told me, "You need to put all those expectations to the side." And when I started working with her, I could feel her presence, like watching me, like somebody in the corner, just, I don't want to say like stalking me, but it, but,
Almost feels
but
like that.
yeah, but it does feel like those eyes were there. You know, those eyes were there,
Hmm.
and I could feel her presence, and it's like everything. It's like this energy is very strong energy. You even look at it in the candle. You'll see it in the candle. The flame will start going crazy. You'll see it in the glass of water. It looks like somebody dropped an Alka Seltzer in there. You
From all the
know,
bubbles.
exactly. It's like so, and I was taught a different concept about the bubbles, but that is like, you know, that her energy is there. Her energy is very known. She makes her presence very known. And just by doing those little things, just, you don't have to do so much. By doing that, you can accomplish whatever you want. You just have to come with the right intent. And with her, in the beginning, I made the mistake. You know, I was young. I was like 17, 18 years old. You know, I had a crush on a girl. I was like, "Oh, hold on a second, I'm gonna get her." You know,
Oh no.
and I did, and I did. You know, but
Yeah.
you know, I also felt the backlash of that. You know, so I, you know, I did what I had to do with my mentor. My mentor broke that, you know, and
Hmm.
then she told me, "Hey, listen, go about it in this way. If you really want to work with her, because she's a very miraculous spirit, she will bring miracles, and she will do it so fast. it's not even funny, and it's with the main ones too, like Maria Celestina, Juan Minero, el Judío Errante, el Anima del Retiro, el Anima de la Basura, el Anima de Pica Pica, whichever one you want to work with. There's so many of them in the Latin American folklore that whichever one you choose, they're gonna get the job done fast. You know,
Mhm.
whether you're doing it for good work or whether you're doing it for bad work. The animas don't discriminate because they're like in the middle. They're in the
I see.
middle.
Yeah.
So they trust you that they trust you, not like saying, oh, that you're gonna make the right decisions. They're just so loyal that they'll do whatever you say and they'll get it done.
Which has its perks to it. That's for sure.
And that's what I tell people, like, just be careful with how you go about it, because there's ways of doing things. Like when you send them out, there's ways to protect yourself. There's spiritual baths that you have to take. There's certain rituals that you have to do. And then, if you just go about it like that, but in the beginning, I always tell people, just stay, keep it simple. White mantle, if you want to go there, a glass of water, a candle, and prayers. Prayers are very accepted. That's one of her, and company. Just you sitting there and doing prayers in a meditative state, whether you do it in your home or you do it at a park or you do it at a church. I love to go to the church and do that as well because it's a cleansing for me. um I would just sit there and just meditate and just pray, and I'll just get my phone and I'll just look through all my prayers because all my prayers are locked in my phone. And I
Yeah.
just go and and I have a collection of prayers. Like I just collect prayers and prayers. I'm a prayer guy. So when I just go through all the prayers, I feel like something was lifted. And the way that there's certain people that go about the animas in certain ways, my school of anima, of working animas, is always through Archangel Michael or the archangels, but mainly Archangel Michael, because in the philosophy that I was taught through my school of spiritism was is that Archangel Michael was the one who put the anima there in the first place. So that's why she has her shackles and chains. He placed them on her. And he is the one that walks, he has the animas beneath him. So to us it's like he's like one of the gatekeepers of the animas as well. And you have
That's
other spirits as well.
That's really fascinating regarding the Archangel Michael. I mean, it's theorized, that the archangels they come, or the Jewish archangels, they come out of the Jewish, pardon me, they come out of the Jewish captivity in Babylon.
Hmm.
And from what I understand, like Michael in Babylon was essentially this underworld, like judgment kind of figure.
Hmm.
And so, I've told you about like, that intuitive spell of like, wait, if I just call in Michael and his justice and like this particular dead spirit that like suffered this kind of fate, like this is how I can affect justice in the situation. And it was terrifyingly effective. Like it was quick and terrifying.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, what have I done?
And
I
that's
just
the
wanted this person to get better.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the thing about the
they,
animas is like that's one thing with the animas that I tell a lot of people, like that's one thing that everybody has to be cautious about, that when you do work with them, don't do that. Like, oh, what have I done? That situation. Like I've done that too, because when I started working with them and like I said, I unleashed hell on somebody,
Mhm.
I was like, holy crap, like what the hell just happened, you know? And it went really bad, like it went really south, So, um, but my teacher was telling me like, hey, listen, this is what it is. And you see that the animas are involved in so many of the syncretism within African diasporic traditions and different other types of traditions where they represent these spirits that can be like gatekeepers, but also um they're very aggressive, very hot spirits, you know
Yes.
and I think like any spirit, however you approach it and what your intent is what you're gonna get. I work the anima in a specific way, but I also can flip her to another way,
Mhm.
and that's been because of years of experience that I've developed a strong bond and relationship with her.
Relationship's key with working with any spirit.
Hmm.
especially working with these spirits, you know, because there's so many of them, you don't know which one you're necessarily getting until you become more experienced.
Exactly.
And they can be very fiery and
Yes.
very hot, and then they can also function as masks for various spirits that you find in the ATRs and such. As you go deeper with them, if you have to be careful of that, like until you know what's coming through, then well, it could be anything really. So.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Emil. This has been a pleasure, and I look
Thank
forward
you.
to having you back on again soon. If anyone would like to get in contact with Emil, I'll have his website down below in the description. Please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And until next time, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again for being on here with me today. Emil, it's always a pleasure. You always have such a great wealth of knowledge to share. So
Thank
it's
you
been
so
quite
much. Many
fortuitous to meet you.
blessings.
Many
Thank you.
blessings to you as well.
Many
And
blessings
I'll
to you.
talk